pirates. All right, ladies and gentlemen, who's ready for the most mixed news of the day? Bearman asks shortly after Agenda gives her orders. There had been a bevy of reports of the counter-assaults on all the drones that had shown up. But since Mother Massacre had failed to show up at any other community, they all assumed she was taking a break to see to her face. By all means, Bearman. I've gotten through a good chunk of the information and found something both encouraging and disquieting. The bad news is that Mother Massacre is going to have a very easy time fixing herself, or even building backup bodies if she needs them. And the good news, she's made of common materials, skillfully assembled and with some of the most vicious programming imaginable, but common materials. I'll wager that if you got your hands on her with the Null Unleashed, it would have been game over right then and there, Miles, Bearman says. So it's a go-to weapon, Victor says, but she already has countermeasures and will be wise to the fact we plan to use it. Miles remarks, guys, I'm not done. I've got the blueprints for her body and the blueprints and instructions to create a special drone that will assemble a Mother Massacre pod from scrap material in case the person who wants one of her isn't skilled enough to do the work themselves. Really? Well, don't keep us in suspense. What's the secret to this crazy monster? The programming, I'm afraid. Her body is well reinforced and has numerous comfort organs removed in order to allow her more power and several systems. She doesn't eat, she doesn't breathe, she cannot bear children. But she has several components right out of a starship's power core and warp drive in her torso. This lets her use Axiom on a scale that's normally reserved for ships, has ship-rated shielding, computational power and therefore reaction time on using that Axiom. That explains why the thermite was just a light show down the back, Miles says. Essentially, we need ship-grade weaponry to hit a woman-sized target that is actively on the lookout for it to do her harm, unless Null is brought into the equation. While interesting, I want to know about her aftermarket modifications. It has to be more than just shields, processor, and power core. Yes, she also has the communication relay broken down and installed along her back. It's one of the most heavily shielded areas because it's one of the most important areas. If we mark her back, we disrupt her communication. We stab her stomach and we kill her blueprints. We get her chest and it's game over. The power core gets taken down. Where's the processor? Miles asks. Interspersed throughout the torso. Now, another important thing to note is that technically there are no weapons integrated into the body. She's just been taking advantage of Axiom use and her tentacles to use them as melee weapons. But the body is a communications and defensive hub. Considering she can likely create her own weapons, I'm far from surprised. Agenda mutters with a thoughtful consideration. And the lack of integrated weapons isn't a bad move. As you said, she can just pick one up and go, but she'll walk through any and every weapon scanner imaginable and just come across as an overly energetic and reinforced synth. Maybe an extra chatty one with the communication array. Odd, but far from threatening. So you really just need a shuttle to make one of these things? And a trade bar of tritite. You will have tritite left over. These murder machines are surprisingly economical. Oh great, because when you think walking war crime, you think budget. Miles grumps out. Now, Victor, you better be ready to hit that factory soon. I don't like the idea of Massacre having any time to rev up. I'll start getting things together. Jean-Luc, I'll need your expertise. I plan to null it and then pop it, Victor says. One final thing of note, I only had a partial download of the OS and data for Massacre. But what I can see, she's got a brutal will to live. The scripts for uploaded minds are generally complicated as all hell, and a corrupted vertical slice of it like this isn't giving much insight. But she's going to do literally everything and anything in her power to stay alive, Bearman notes. I see. So she's like a cornered animal at the best of times. Wonderful. Jean-Luc, the sooner you're here, the better. Victor states, a burn laser forces the shield into the proper configuration for the slower plasma blast to eat through the slowly rising figure. The main communication network was still down, but shortwave was uncorrupted, so they were in the sky and searching for odd sights and dangerous signs, and the slowly rising, unscheduled, and unmanned satellites were definitely not something they were going to let fly. The blasted things blended well with the sky and needed visual confirmation to actually be found. but they were kill on sight. No one knew what they did, but no one was going to risk it. Vuxa was under attack and no one was standing for it. Ho-Ho angles his fighter into a slow dive to get a better look at the burning wreckage. There's only so much you can make sense of in a burning falling cylinder. He takes a scan of it anyways. With so much damage to the outer hull, they should be easier to decipher. The scan gets stored away, and he pulls back to give the wreckage another plasma barrage. It's too close to where people are to let it crash normally, and the slag will have cooled to the point it shouldn't be much worse than hail when it lands. Still painful and annoying, but better than something the size of a bus slamming into your home. He pulls out of the dive and takes to the sky again, slowly rising to join the search pattern to find more of these things. Whatever they are, whatever they do, there's no telling what the intent is. "This will do nicely," Victor notes as Jean-Luc hands him the bag. It's simple, foolproof, and powerful. A shaped charge the size of a small backpack. No axiom, just chemistry. Perfect for destroying everything you want while in the null. There was also a bandolier of incendiary grenades and 2 packs of thermite. "Good, because I'm going with you. This is your terrain, but I've gone through the training too," and Jean-Luc trails off as Victor shakes his head. "I want you to prepare a mortar in case things go wrong. If we're repelled, I want the sky falling on that factory, but I'd like to keep it at least partially intact," Victor says, and Jean-Luc nods. "All right, I've got one with me actually. I'll find a position to start shelling the place in case everything starts going wrong," Jean-Luc says, and Victor nods. "Use your good judgment. We're under a communications blackout. Also, the hill to the southeast has a collection of boulders near the top. They'll serve as an excellent visual block," Victor says, and Jean-Luc nods. "Secondary carrier beacons, relays destroyed. Primary carrier beacons undamaged, plans unchanged." Mother Massacre states as she continues working on the device. Amarada, Amiri, and Gaprisa are just staring from out of the eye holes of the helmets they've been given. "What is that thing? It looks like a massive broadcast array," Amiri asks. "Just remember the stories and it'll come to you," Gaprisa says. "It looks like it's nearly finished." It is nearly finished. What's going to even happen? We're about to find out. Gerania, Hayes, and Mirage were focused and professional. Thank God. They also had been warned that he was going to null the area, and they had to mentally prepare for that. The null wouldn't last long enough to actually hurt any of them, but it would last long enough for him to shatter the opposition. They're currently crawling through a small crack beneath a valley between 2 hills, a worn-out drain for the valley that dams up easily with debris. He had cleared it out a few days ago and had set the area to be widened before all this mess had started. Now it was acting as his block to let him sneak in. He's not in the visible spectrum, and neither are the girls behind him. But they're still operating under full stealth tactics, staying low, going from cover to cover, and checking twice before each dash. They find mines. She's mined the fucking area. Thankfully, the mines are working on green light tripwires to blend with the grass a little and therefore not going off when they pass through Victor, Gerania, Hayes, and Mirage without harm. Closer and closer they creep, the still and silent seeming factory suddenly erupting with noise as they pass by sound-blocking wards. There's an insane amount of work going on in there. They can hear metal being torn and the distinct noise of welding and bolting. Victor's eyes narrow when it all suddenly stops. "Hurry," he whispers to the other 3. Then something slams out from the factory and the grass turns to snow and ice. The boulders to gigantic skulls, and all visible stone is bone. His heart pounds like a jackhammer as he feels something reaching into his mind and something wet on his lip. He wipes at it, and for a moment, just a moment, it's blood. Then it becomes black tar writhing with maggots as the sounds from inside the factory begin anew. Not as the sound of industrial work and construction, but screams of the damned and cries for mercy under the cackling of a cruel witch. What is going on? He begins to ask his companions, but he can see them. Spirits, all 3 with their faces contorted in unimaginable fury. He looks upon himself to try and make sense of things. His armor has been replaced by crudely stitched leather with a strange texture. He's wearing strips of human hide. Jean-Luc feels something happen. Then the world wavers and the grassy and boulder-laden hill is suddenly on fire. He shifts onto the rock to avoid the flames by sheer instinct, and he sees that his mortar has been turned into some twisted contraption of bone and barbed wire. He looks up and the sky is burning. There are pools of lava gathering everywhere and everything is going wrong and messed up. He tastes blood and spits it. As it flies through the air, it shifts into a foul-looking bile that starts to crackle and spit when it lands on stone. He slowly reaches for the emergency communicator. People, there's some kind of mental attack. I think I'm in hell, proceeding with bombardment. He screams as his vision pulses and he feels the foul energy entering his mind. He doubles over as he tries to resist, but it pounds incessantly at his skull. He sees blood drip out of his nose and onto the ground, and it wavers in and out, in and out. It settles on some kind of blue fluid. It looks like his hand is synthetic and covered in chains. He rises up and the world is wavering into a digital reality. Script for a video game. He's just a character, a little bit of code with delusions of grandeur, a plaything with no free will, and his hands reach the sides of his head, and he tries to push against the malignant wave that's pounding into his brain. It's just a reaction, something invoking fear, even if it's senseless. The world wavers. One moment he's a robot with restraints, another he's code that says slave, and another a wooden doll with strings rising into the heavens. Chains, strings, code, restraints. It keeps shifting over and over again as he fights. The message is clear. It's the time for fear, and he fears being controlled. That. He forces it to keep cycling. Any of these issues are nightmarish, but in rapid sequence it breaks its own story. He can't stop seeing it, but he can stop it from influencing him. Too much at least. There are screams of rage and he begins to move. The human mind is literally built differently. If it's causing him horrific hallucinations and blood from the nose, there's no telling what it's doing to the women. The answer is rage. He gets between two mech suit pirates that have decided to settle their differences with murder and catches the plasma in his hands before twisting and detonating both of them to startle both women. Enough! You're playing into enemy hands. They want you enraged. So calm yourself. Do not let the enemy win. The first explosion startles everyone. Even Mother Massacre seems uncertain for a moment. Position compromised. Relocating. She begins before she starts pulling on the axiom. Then something disrupts most of the effect, and she's forced to back away on low power. She wasn't close enough to be harmed by the effect, but a wall detonates inwards, and an absolutely furious-looking Victor with the lower half of his face covered in the blood that poured from his nose looks like he's ready for murder and carrying a gun big enough to ensure it for entire armies. A series of shots ring out, and Mother Massacre intercepts the bullets before grabbing Amarada and vanishing. Emiri and Gabrisa try to run, only for his shots to shred their legs and bring them screaming to the ground. Then the null begins to clear, the axiom in the area too fluid for the null to win out for so long. The engine starts again and he screams Baba Yaga before slamming a magnetic device into the hate engine and activating it. He steps away even as the screams of fury from the cloaking outside start sounding out. And then the hate engine detonates under the shape charge and he turns to glare at the two injured Menenmi. Sir, I've assaulted the enemy compound. Main opponent has retreated. 2 captives taken. Inactive Mother Massacre captured. Cognito hazard weapon destroyed. Primary production factory offline. Pass it along. He snarls into the communicator. His heavy footfalls approach the crippled and terrified Vekas girls. Now then, you two have a lot of questions to answer, starting with a very simple one. Why should I let you live?